students. Today I am orienting you about the post-internship activity 5, that is review of textbook in both pedagogy subjects. Okay, so here you see your table. Today we are going to discuss about activity 5, which stands for 20 marks. Okay, so now before going through that, let us know what is the meaning of a textbook. Let us refresh our meaning. We already know about the meaning of textbook. So, as we know, the textbook is a standard book prescribed by some specific board like Karnataka Secondary Education Examination Board, CBSE or ICSE, and it is prescribed for specific or well-defined set of the students. Means for each class, each subject there is a separate textbook. Now, let us know the meaning of review. As the name suggests to you, review is about surveying a textbook in order to evaluate its quality from various aspects. So it is a formal assessment of something, some literary document with the intention of bringing about some positive changes if necessary. Okay, so textbook review is the critical appraisal, assessment or evaluation of a textbook in order to identify or highlight the strengths and weaknesses of a textbook so that the further changes can be brought about for the benefit of the students. It assesses the usefulness and validity of a textbook, that particular textbook, how useful it is for particular standard or set of the students. Your textbook review will explain that, right? So now let us see that how you are supposed to prepare the activity, how you are supposed to write about your entire activity. So here, as I have mentioned, you need to choose any of the textbook from 8th, 9th or 10th standard. Here the condition is that you are generally, it is not the condition, but generally you are supposed to choose the textbook of your pre-internship program. Suppose for your English method subject, you have taught 8th standard students English. So now what you are supposed to do is you choose the 8th standard English textbook to review now. Why? Because already that book you have read it many a time in order to teach your students. You are familiar with the lessons, and while you were going through the lessons for preparing your lesson plans, you might have come across many of those kind of the modifications or some strengths of the textbook which you felt at that time. So those are to be mentioned. Okay, so now let us see that what is the method with the help of which you are supposed to undergo or you are supposed to prepare your this textbook review. Now the stages are introducing the book, outline the content, highlighting the parts of the book, detailed evaluation of the textbook, and conclusion. So these are the stages. Now let us know each stage in detail. Keeping that as a main heading, you can write the textbook review. So the first one is the introduction. So how you are supposed to start your textbook review is, first give the introductory details of the textbook, where first you are mentioning what is the book title, which subject the textbook stands for, the class, who is the publisher, which year that book was published, what is the cost of that particular textbook, and the number of the pages, place of publication, and textbook development committee. Here, why you need to write the textbook development committee? The reason is that with the help of that you will be able to know that who are the resource persons for your particular subject. So you are introducing yourself to some of the resource persons who are experts in your subject. Okay, so these are the introductory details. The second one, you are writing the outline of the textbook. Outline is the sketch of the textbook, meaning is that with the under the heading of outline, you are supposed to write the number of lessons in prose that can be presented with the table with the title of prose lesson and the authors, then number of the poems, table with the titles of the poems with the poets. Okay, how many supplementary lessons are there? Then if the textbook has some composition lessons or some grammar lessons or figures of speech, so the topics are to be given separately. Now, outline of the textbook, you need to write the contents also. Here you need not to mention the contents as it is, just you need to mention whether the properly structured contents is given or not. Second is the foreword. Foreword, as you know, it is a piece of writing written at the beginning of the textbook, and generally it is not by the primary author. It is written by somebody who had the close interaction about the textbook with the author, right? So that you are supposed to write whether the textbook contains the foreword or not. Okay, now next one we need to write the summary or the highlights of the lesson. Here you are supposed to give the chapter wise theme of the lesson. So how you will be presenting it? Lesson number 1. Okay, lesson number 1, title is this, author is the particular person, down theme. So within 4 to 5 lines or 6 lines you can mention the theme of each chapter. Like that you can just keep on writing the theme of the lessons. Then evaluation of the textbook. Here that's what we call as the critical analysis of the textbook, that is chapter wise we are supposed to do. So under the detailed evaluation, first we are going to write about the physical get-up and layout. It means the physical structure of the textbook, how it is. So physical structure of the textbook you are evaluating from the following point of views. For an example, the textbook contains the comprehensive introduction and summaries or not. Each textbook must have each chapter of the textbook should have the introduction and summaries. So that you have to see whether how many chapters contain introduction and how many chapters contain summary. Okay, if some particular chapter has got introduction but summary is not given, so you can mention. If all the chapters do not have the summaries, you can mention it there. For these all the points you can supplement your examples as and where you come across. Next is textbook contains enough pictures, diagrams, tables, etc. helping the students understand the text. Now generally you cannot mention this statement. Why? Because all the chapters may not have the adequate pictures, right? Sometimes the overloading of the pictures may be there. So from your detailed reading point of view, you should write your experiences with the example. Like the text chapter number 8 of the 8th standard English textbook does not have the enough pictures, wherein as the story suggests accordingly, if the pictures are given, it will be more interesting and fun for the students to read, right? So that way you can give the chapter wise examples that is needed. Sometimes if you see the diagram is given but the quality of the diagram or the color presentation is not good, so that way you can mention it there. Next point is, these all the below mentioned points you are supposed to give along with the examples. Some points can be written in general, some can be given with the examples. The front and the back of the title pages of the textbook is appropriate or not. The paper of the textbook, how is the quality of the paper? Okay, size and the format of the print is appropriate or not, you have to talk about that. Size and the weight of the textbook, how is the weight, whether it is handy from the student's point of view or it is heavy, that you have to just work upon it. Then what is the body of the textbook, whether it is durable or not. Generally some of the textbook, as I have experienced, is that the pages of the textbook will be torn out very soon. The seaming of the textbook is not be, or the binding will not be appropriate, and the pages will come out very easily. So from that point of view you have to see whether it is durable or not. The textbook is fun and interesting or not. As you take the textbook in your hand, whether it is appealing or attractive or not. I mean to say that whether the book jacket or the entire book as a whole, when it comes in the hand of the child, how do you feel it looks fun or not, right? So next point you need to write about the content or the quality of the content of the textbook. So here you need to mention the content of the textbook is challenging enough to foster new learning or not. How is the content quality? Because the purpose of the textbook is to provide the new learning, but that learning should be challenging enough. Whatever the students have learnt in the previous class, the study material should be higher than whatever they have learnt in their previous standard. Okay. The topics are free from any kind of discrimination. Generally in the textbook, he will be mentioned, or she will be mentioned. So whether from gender point of view, or race, or some class, or from religious group point of view, whether it is following that ethics or not. Okay, so that kind of the examples can be given there. The lessons of the textbook relate to the real life situations or not, because your in NCF 2005 says that the class study material of the textbook or study material given in the class should be such which should relate to the real life situations. Okay, so whether the lessons are like that or not, if not so, you can comment by giving the examples of chapter. Okay, that can be mentioned. Then lessons in the textbook motivate the students or not. Lessons are related with the previous knowledge of the students. Okay, then there is sufficient variety in the content of the lesson. What happens that each chapter of your textbook should provide a various kind of the student experience to the students. Meaning is that here that some chapter, if it is related to science and technology in English language, like your Wright brothers was something I remember, but the next chapter when you open it, it is about Rickshaw Villa, which is a story. Then the third chapter is about once again a dialogue or some drama. So it means the textbook should have the variety kind of the content. Why? Because language is learnt from the various perspectives in the various contexts and the situations. So that way you are supposed to write comment on it. Then the activities, exercises apply to the diversity of the students' abilities, interests and learning styles. The lessons which are given, the exercises which are given at the end of the chapter, are they catering to all kind of the learners? Because classroom is a heterogeneous group. There the variety of the students will be there. The student, those who are average, below average and above average. So activity should be such which should be fun and interest for all kind of the learners, and they should be challenging enough for the student, those who have the higher order thinking abilities. Okay, then the poems given in the textbook are according to the abilities and interest of the learners or not. Sometimes the abstract type of the poems will be given, which becomes very difficult for the students to understand, right? So that you have to just work upon. Then the textbook provides sufficient activities to learn some rhyming words, some rhyming scheme and figures of speech related to poem, where the proper activities and exercises are given or not. From that point of view, you are supposed to presented there, right? So here what I have done is I have taken the major points of your content quality. There are many more points which can be incorporated according to your learning experiences from the textbook. You had been very much closed with the students and you know what can be their needs and interests. Accordingly, you can add the points here. Here I have just given a sample of the questions or the points under which you can write. But most important thing for writing a textbook review is that if you write one point, you need to supplement that point with the example from your lesson and the chapter. Sometimes you can take the cutout of the Xerox or of that particular place where what you are indicating and can be pasted under this, under each heading. So that also can be done. Okay, then after writing that, you are supposed to mention the conclusion. Conclusion is about your overall experience about that how the textbook is. Okay, so overall rating, how much you will give out of 10, whether it is 7 or 8, and if you are giving 7 or 8, what is the logic of giving behind that, the rationale behind that, you are supposed to write it. Then your reflection is about this activity is given for you in order to know your textbook closely. Okay, so how your experience had been about conducting that activity, so your strength and weaknesses while performing this activity, and the many more other points related to the reflections of your learning or your experience while conducting this activity can be mentioned. I hope you have understood about how to prepare or how to write the textbook review. So in each method you are supposed to write the textbook review on the same lines as suggested here. So here just it is the idea. You are free enough to incorporate the ideas or the points based on your own learning experiences. So thank you so much.